Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to go from no eyebrows to... So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is go through everything that you're going to need in order to create your eyebrows. So I like to use a brow pomade, so I'm going to be using the Ulta Beauty brow pomade in the shade medium brown. Next you're going to need a brush, and I like to use the Japanese angled eyeshadow brush. I find this one has a thin enough tip I can get very precise lines on my brows. Next you're going to need a spoolie. Any kind will do. I'm using just my BH Cosmetics one. You're also going to want a brow setting gel. I like to use the Essence Make Me Brow Eyebrow Gel Mascara. It is tinted and it does add fibers to your brows, giving them a fuller look. I also like to use a brow powder. This is the Brow Expert from Ulta Beauty, and I have the shade medium. So the powder in here is just going to help me fill in any light spots that I can't quite get dark enough with my pomade. And then we're going to need to clean up the brows in case we do make any mistakes. In that case, I am just going to use my Colourpop No Filter Concealer, and I have the shade Light 16. And just a small concealer brush. I again am using my BH Cosmetics small concealer brush. Also, this is optional. I am going to go through and show you some grooming before we actually sculpt the brows. And for that, we're just going to need a small pair of nail or nose hair trimmers, and then just a tweezers. I prefer to use the Revlon slanted tweezers. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, now that I have you guys zoomed in a little bit, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and simply just comb my eyebrows up. So for my eyebrows, they're very thin and skinny. So if I leave them just combed like this, I don't have much of a structure for my brows. Also, when they're kind of laying on top of each other, the hairs, it can be harder to get the product in there. But when we brush them up, it can give the illusion of fuller brows, and it'll make it easier for the product to get in between the brow hairs. So I'm just going to comb mine up. And I also want to note that my eyebrows are very uneven, so I'm going to show you how to make sure that they're evened out when you complete them. So now that the brows are all fluffed out, this step is optional. I'm going to go in and just trim any extra super long hairs that I see. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Like right here. Just any really long, unruly hairs. The next thing I want to talk about is planning out our eyebrows. So I'm going to take my small angled brush, and I also like to grab a makeup wipe, or you can put makeup remover on a paper towel, whatever you like, and just remove any product that may be on it and really sculpt that tip into the finest point that you can. I'm just going to dip into my brow pomade. So when you dip into your pomade, you want to kind of brush each side against the edge to remove excess product and to keep that very fine tip. So to plan out our eyebrows, we kind of want to take in some measurements. We're going to be placing dots to kind of give us an outline of where we want to start sculpting our eyebrows. So for the inner corner, you can hold a eyeshadow brush or another type of brush up to your eyebrow. This is going to be a guide for where you want to start the inner part of your brow. Next, you want to align the bottom of your nose with the outer corner of your eyeball. That is going to be where you want to end your eyebrow. And then for the arch, keeping your brush angled with the bottom of your nose, go ahead and swing that out to the outer edge of your pupil, and that's where we're going to want to start our arch. So I'm going to go ahead and start placing my dots. Okay, now you can see I have the dots for my brows. And this is just a general rule to follow. Okay, and then I did only make dots for the bottom part of the eyebrow. And again, I'm going to just go ahead and do the same with the other side of my face. Now you can see my dots. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dip back into my brow pomade using the same technique, wiping it against the edges to make sure that we have a fine tip on our brush. And the first thing I'm going to do is connect the dots. And I'm using very light pressure here. And I'm looking directly into my mirror. So okay. So I've connected the first pair of dots, and now I'm going to connect the outer. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And don't worry if you do make mistakes, we'll go ahead and clean those up later. For now, I'm just going to keep on connecting my dots. And if you do end up with a sharp corner where you connected your dots, that's okay. We'll go ahead and fix that later. It's better to have too strong of an angle than too rounded of an angle because it's easier to fix if it's too sharp. So right now we just want to focus on connecting those dots. So now that we've connected our dots on both sides, I'm going to just tip my head up. And I'll zoom you in here. Okay. And then if you notice any missing spots or sparse areas, you can go ahead and fill those in, and you can see those better by tilting your head upward. So now we have the bottom of our eyebrows done. I am dipping back into my pomade, using the same technique, brushing against the edges, keeping that fine tip. And for the top of the eyebrows, for me, the top of my eyebrows is going to be the highest point of where I brushed those hairs. That's the highest point of my eyebrows. And let me just show you. See this? That's where I want to be. This is if I just brush them sideways. I'm not getting a whole lot of thickness, and I'd like a little bit. Okay, so, and if your eyebrows do need a little extra fluffing, go ahead and just refluff. Let's go ahead and start sculpting the top of our eyebrows. Oh my god, I hit them all out. Good thing you can't see that. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm looking face on to my mirror here, and I'm going to start not right in the front, but where my hairs start. So I'm going to start there and just making a parallel line up to where that first dot was. I'll show you how to plan the dots on the other side. Okay, so now that I have that line all the way up to my dot right here, it's really important to turn your head at this point so that when you're connecting, so that you can make sure you get a nice good angle. So when you're working on the front part, when you're working on the front part of your brow, you want to be facing directly toward your mirror. When you're working on the tail, you want to turn your head so that the tail is facing the mirror so that you can get the most accurate angle here. Sorry, my camera stopped and I'm a little bit frazzled now. But it's all good. Now that we've connected our tail, we're going to go ahead and work on the front of the eyebrow. And I don't have any extra product on my brush right now. I'm just using what's left over from the tail. And I'm going to start at the base and just lightly fluff up all the way up to the top of my brows. By doing that, we're getting less product so that we can kind of feather in the brows. If you do happen to use too much, wow, I can get rid of that right away. Anyways, if you do get too much product on the I can't say front part, the front part of the brow, that's okay. We can clean that up and we will go ahead and work on that. Okay, so on the other eyebrow, I'm going to show you that same dot method so that we can plan out the brows. So, again, I'm noticing where the top part of my brow is, or where the hairs touch, and just at the very base of that, just making a dot. Dot at the outer corner of my pupil, and our dot from the outside is already there. Brush dip in the pomade, and I'm just going to connect those dots. Now that I'm at the corner, tilt my head. Okay. Alright, going to go in and fluff the front part. Now we have a basic outline for our brows. I'm going to quick just do a comb through again. Again, I am lifting the brow hairs up. Kind of spreading that pomade. Now we're going to go in and fill in any areas that we may be a little bit sparse in. So I'm just kind of taking light strokes all the way through the brows. And I'm still using my pomade. And it does help to tilt your head too, and that'll allow you to see a bit more in between those hairs to see if you need to come in with any extra product. I'm going to do the same with the other side. I have both of my brows filled in now with the pomade. I'm going to again just do a little brush through. This helps to even out the product, and also the pomade adds color, but it also adds a little bit of staying power to the brows. I still have a little bit of area where my pomade just isn't quite enough. You can take a brow pencil and fill in those areas. I am actually going to just use my powder. So I'm just dipping into my powder. I'm going to use the darker shade, and I'm just going to go in and fill in. If you have fuller brows to begin with, you may not have as much sparse areas as I do, but I literally have to build my entire eyebrow from scratch pretty much. I'm going to use a pencil on the other side just to show you the difference. And this is just the NYX Eyebrow Pencil in the shade Dark Brown. Not a huge fan of this pencil because the tip is odd shaped and I prefer a more precise shape, but I had a very sharp angle where my dots connected, and I'm going to go ahead and just smooth that over. Before we move on, I just want to address that my eyebrows naturally are uneven on my face. So this brow goes a little bit, it's a little bit lower than this brow. So I am going to fix that when we do go ahead and clean up the brows. So then when we have the basic shape kind of filled in, I'm going to go ahead and take my brow gel, and I have very skinny brows as it is. So I'm going to be very careful and just and with this gel, it does have color, so it's giving my brows a little more color. It also has little fibers in it too, which can give the illusion that there's more hair there. I'm going to let that brow gel just kind of dry a little bit while I prepare to clean up the brows. And to do that, I'm taking just some of my concealer. I'm just going to give myself a good dab on the back of the hand. And then I have my brush. One of the tests I like to do to ensure that my brows are even is I like to raise them. And as you can tell, this one dips way too low. So with my brows raised, I'm going to dip into the concealer and just... Once my brows are lowered again, I'm going to blend that line in. And this step is only really necessary if you need to even out your eyebrows. Now I'm just going to dip into the concealer again. I'm not really carving out my brows. I'm just noticing places where I may have gotten a little bit out of hand. So I've cleaned up a little bit. I'm just going to blend. Just gonna pat the concealer down to blend it in. Usually this doesn't take me so long, but since I am explaining, it's taking a little bit longer. Usually I can get my brows done in 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. It doesn't take me very long at all. It does take practice, so keep that in mind. And since we did even out underneath the brow, I'm going to go ahead and even out above the brow too. And I just took a little dip of powder. Now I'm just going to do a final comb through and see how everything's looking. And another thing I like to do with the front of my brows is just, I don't have any extra product on, but I'm just kind of feathering it out just no more than maybe like 2 millimeters, just to fade it out a little bit so that there's not a ton of product. So there's not a definite line where the product starts, because I unfortunately overplucked my brows as a child or a preteen, and I don't have front brow hair. So I think we're looking pretty good. The last thing that you can do is, I noticed I have a few out of place brow hairs. I'm just gonna go through and... This is my favorite way to tweeze my brows, because this way you know you're not taking away anything that you might need. Anything that's in the brow line that you just created, you know to leave that alone. I'm just gonna quick do the other side. there you have it, guys. Alright, you guys, so that is how I do my eyebrows. It takes practice, and you have to figure out which tools work best for you and what you feel most comfortable with. There's just a firefly flying around there. The most important thing is to practice. The other most important thing is to find the tools that you love. Also equally important, you need to find products that are a good color match for your brows. My dog's over here. God damn it. Anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I love you so much. Bye!